The Black Swan, The Impact of the Highly Improbable by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Picture a turkey living its best life. Every morning for 1,000 days straight, a friendly human shows up with breakfast. The turkey, like any rational creature, starts connecting the dots. A pattern emerges. Day after day, the man appears, food gets delivered, and everything's peachy. With each feeding, the turkey's confidence grows stronger. It becomes absolutely convinced that this daily ritual is a fundamental law of the universe, specifically designed for its benefit. By the Wednesday afternoon before Thanksgiving, the turkey has never been more certain about how the world works. Then everything changes. The man arrives, but he's empty-handed. The turkey's entire worldview is about to get violently updated. This deceptively simple story unlocks one of the most mind-bending books of our century, The Black Swan, by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. This isn't just another business book collecting dust on your shelf. It's a complete rewiring of how you see reality. Published right before the 2008 financial meltdown, it became eerily prophetic, suddenly making sense of a world that seemed to be falling apart. Millions of copies flew off shelves, and the phrase Black Swan entered everyday conversation as shorthand for those massive, nobody-saw-it-coming events that reshape everything. The author himself is fascinatingly unconventional. Nassim Taleb isn't your typical tweed jacket academic. He's that rare creature who actually walked the walk, a former Wall Street trader turned philosopher of randomness. While others theorized about risk from comfortable offices, Taleb was in the arena, making and losing fortunes by betting against the exact kind of blindness our turkey suffered from. Today we're diving deep into his revolutionary idea. We're going to explore why all of us are secretly turkeys, confidently strutting around in a world far more mysterious than we imagine. Here's what I can promise you. By the time we're done, you'll understand a critical bug in human thinking. You'll see why the most life-changing moments in history, and in your own story, are precisely the ones you'll never anticipate. Even better, you'll learn how to build a life that doesn't just survive uncertainty, but actually thrives on it. Let's jump in. To really get the Black Swan, you need to know where Taleb's coming from. He grew up in Lebanon during what seemed like an eternal golden age. For over a millennium, his homeland had been this remarkable experiment in harmony, different cultures and religions coexisting peacefully. Everyone there believed their society was rock solid, permanent. They had centuries of evidence backing up this belief. Then 1975 hit. A vicious civil war exploded out of nowhere. Within days, paradise evaporated. Everything people assumed was unshakable just crumbled. This experience of watching a stable world violently collapse became Taleb's defining education. He witnessed firsthand that history doesn't gradually evolve, it leaps. Long stretches of calm get punctuated by sudden ruptures. The events that truly matter aren't in your daily newsfeed, they're the shocking, world-flipping surprises. This insight led him to his central concept. A black swan has three distinctive features. First, it's a complete outlier. Something so far outside normal expectations that past experience gives you virtually no clue it could happen. Second, it carries massive impact. Think the Internet's invention, September 11th, or a major financial collapse. These aren't gentle ripples. They're tsunamis that transform everything. Third, despite being totally unexpected beforehand, we humans immediately create after-the-fact explanations, making it seem obvious and predictable in hindsight. We tell ourselves, of course we should have seen that coming. This is what he calls retrospective illusion, rarity, extreme impact, and retrospective predictability. That's the three-part signature of a black swan. Taleb's bold claim is that nearly everything significant in our world results from these black swans. The rise of major religions, historical turning points, your personal life trajectory. Think about your own story. Did you plan exactly how you'd meet your closest friends? Did your career unfold according to some detailed blueprint? Or did chance encounters, unexpected opportunities, and sudden pivots play the leading role? The trouble is, we're blind to black swans. We spend our days focused on the small, the predictable, the routine. We're exactly like that turkey, accumulating evidence that everything's safe and steady, completely unaware that somewhere, someone's sharpening the knife. To explain our blindness, Taleb splits reality into two fundamentally different territories, which he calls Mediocristan and Extremistan. Mediocristan is the land of averages, predictability, and the ordinary. Think physical human characteristics like height or weight. Gather 1,000 random people in a stadium, then add the world's heaviest person to the mix. Sure, it affects the average, but not dramatically. In Mediocristan, with large enough samples, no single data point can radically skew the total. Exceptions are rare, and their influence is limited. This is the realm of the familiar bell curve, where most things cluster comfortably around the middle. But here's the thing. We don't actually live in Mediocristan anymore. Increasingly, our world operates by the rules of Extremistan. Extremistan is where things scale wildly, where inequality reigns, and where outcomes are shockingly unpredictable. Think wealth distribution, book sales, social media influence. Gather 1,000 regular folks in that same stadium, then Bill Gates walks in. He doesn't just nudge the average wealth upward. He essentially becomes the average. His net worth dwarfs everyone else's combined. In Extremistan, one single observation can completely dominate the landscape. A dentist or plumber lives in Mediocristan. Their income ties directly to hours worked and clients served. They can't suddenly add zeros to their paycheck without proportionally more effort. But an author, musician, or tech founder inhabits Extremistan. J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter once, but it generates income infinitely. The work is finished, but the rewards can scale limitlessly. This creates brutal, winner-take-all dynamics. A handful of giants capture almost everything, while thousands of others with nearly identical talent get virtually nothing. And here's the kicker. Black swans breed in Extremistan. It's their natural habitat. Our blindness comes from using Mediocristan mental maps to navigate Extremistan territory. We expect fairness and predictability when reality is governed by wild, scalable randomness. So why do our brains make these errors? Taleb identifies several deep-rooted mental bugs, the villains of this story, responsible for our black swan blindness. First up, perhaps the most powerful, the narrative fallacy. Our brains are essentially story-making machines. We're hardwired to see coherent narratives with clear cause and effect, not random sequences. Stories help us compress overwhelming complexity into digestible, memorable chunks. Novelist E.M. Forster demonstrated narrative's power brilliantly. Compare these sentences. The king died, and then the queen died. That's just information. Now try this. The king died, and then the queen died of grief. That's a story. The second version sticks in memory far better, because we've injected causality, imposed a because. The problem is, this storytelling drive is so powerful, we manufacture causes that don't exist. We look at successful entrepreneurs and declare, she succeeded because she was bold and took risks. Markets crash and news outlets instantly provide reasons. A dictator's capture, interest rate changes, whatever narrative fits the moment. Taleb shares this hilarious example. The day Saddam Hussein was captured, Bloomberg News ran the headline, U.S. Treasuries rise, Hussein capture may not curb terrorism. Half an hour later, when Treasury bonds dropped, a new headline appeared. U.S. Treasuries fall. Hussein capture boosts allure of risky assets. The identical event supposedly explained completely opposite market movements. This is the narrative fallacy in action. We crave explanations, and our minds will grab whatever story is convenient and clutch it as truth. This makes the past appear far more orderly and predictable than it actually was. Looking back at black swans like wars or crashes, we construct narratives making them seem inevitable. We forget the genuine uncertainty, the countless alternative paths that could have unfolded. The story smooths out reality's jagged randomness. And this illusion of understanding history gives us dangerously false confidence about predicting the future. This leads to our second villain, confirmation bias. This is our built-in tendency to seek evidence supporting our existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. If you believe all swans are white, you'll hunt for more white swans. Each one you find strengthens your conviction. But this confirmatory evidence is fragile as glass. A single black swan shatters a theory built on observing a million white ones. Taleb argues knowledge grows through falsification, not verification. We approach truth not by proving ourselves right, but by aggressively trying to prove ourselves wrong. He borrows this from philosopher Karl Popper. The most valuable information is the disconfirming instance, that black swan. Great speculators like George Soros, Taleb notes, don't search for reasons supporting their bets. They actively hunt for reasons their theories might be wrong. That's genuine intellectual courage, examining the world without needing it to validate your ego. But most of us do the opposite. We collect evidence like kids collect trading cards, only seeking ones that fit our collection. This is why changing our minds feels nearly impossible, why we get trapped in our own narratives. Third, perhaps most subtle, the ludic fallacy. Ludic comes from Latin for game. The ludic fallacy is mistaking the clean, controlled randomness of games for the messy, wild randomness of actual life. To illustrate, Taleb introduces two characters, Dr. John and Fat Tony. Dr. John is brilliant and highly educated, an engineer. Precise, logical, thinks completely inside the box. Fat Tony is street smart, from Brooklyn, not book smart, but intuitively grasps how reality actually operates. You pose a question. I flip a fair coin 99 times and it comes up heads every single time. What are the odds of tails on the next flip? Dr. John, the academic, instantly answers, 50% obviously, each flip is independent. He's answering within the game's stated rules. Fat Tony scoffs. I'd say no more than 1%, he responds. The coin's gotta be rigged. It ain't a fair game. Who's right? In textbooks, Dr. John wins. But in the real world, Fat Tony survives. He instinctively knows the real risk isn't in the game itself, but in assumptions about the game. He questions the premise. He understands that in actual life, the dice are almost always loaded. The ludic fallacy is Dr. John's blindness. It's believing the measurable, modelable risks of casinos match the risks we face in reality. In casinos, rules are fixed, probabilities known, uncertainty, sources defined. But in the real world, rules can change without warning. Probabilities are unknowable. And the most dangerous risks are ones nobody's even thought to model. This was the catastrophic mistake made by big financial firms who built elaborate mathematical models for risk management. Their models were elegant, based on the neat mathematics of bell curves. But they were models for Mediocristan. When the 2008 Black Swan arrived, an event their models declared impossible, everything collapsed. They were playing with the wrong dice entirely. The final villain in our blindness story is the problem of silent evidence. This might be the most profound. Roman philosopher Cicero told a story about a man shown a painting of sailors who survived shipwreck after praying to the gods. This supposedly proved divine power. His response was simple: where are the paintings of those who prayed and drowned anyway? Drowned sailors can't tell their stories. Failures don't write memoirs. The dead don't give interviews. This is silent evidence. History gets written by winners. What we see isn't the complete picture. We see successes, survivors, the lucky ones. The vast graveyard of failures remains invisible. Think about all those How to Become a Millionaire books. They study successful people's habits, courage, risk-taking, optimism, and conclude these traits cause success. But what if you visited the graveyard of failed entrepreneurs? You'd find it packed with people who also had courage, took risks, and stayed optimistic. The difference between winners and losers isn't just skill. It's a massive dose of luck. But we don't see luck because the unlucky stay silent. Taleb uses another elegant example, the swimmer's body. We see elite swimmers with their long, lean muscles and assume swimming creates that physique. But we've got causality backward. More likely, people naturally predisposed to that body type become successful swimmers. We don't see thousands who swam for years and never developed that physique. We only see survivors. This bias makes the world seem far less random and more stable than it actually is. We see companies that survive decades and call them resilient, forgetting thousands that went bust. We see someone who recovered from terrible illness and call it miraculous, forgetting many who didn't. The silent evidence of the cemetery hides risk's true nature from us. So we're trapped. Our minds create comforting stories. We seek confirming evidence. We mistake games for reality, and we're blind to failure's evidence surrounding us. We're built to be Black Swan suckers. The question becomes, if we can't predict these events, what can we possibly do? This is where Taleb moves from diagnosis to cure. His answer is simple yet revolutionary. You don't need to predict the black swan to survive it, or even benefit from it. His core strategy is the, quote, barbell. Picture a gym barbell, with weights on both ends, and nothing in the middle. Taleb says we should approach life and investments the same way. Instead of putting everything into medium-risk ventures, how do you even define medium risk? We should be ultra-conservative on one end, and ultra-aggressive on the other. Practically, this means putting maybe 85 to 90% of your resources in the safest possible places, things that can't be hurt by a black swan. Think of it as your survival foundation, the protected part of your life that provides stability. Then take the remaining 10 to 15% and put it into extremely speculative, high-risk, high-payoff ventures. These are your bets on positive black swans. Small investments in startups, time spent on creative projects, deciding to attend a party where you might meet someone life-changing. With this strategy, you're protected from negative black swans. Worst-case scenario, you lose your small speculative pot. Your survival never hangs in the balance. But you're wide open to positive black swan upside. If one speculative bet pays off, it can pay off enormously, transforming your life in unpredictable ways. This isn't just about money, it's a life philosophy. Be ultra-conservative with things that can hurt you, so you can be ultra-aggressive with things that can help you. Protect your downside. Let the upside handle itself. This requires a radical mindset shift. It means learning to distinguish between positive and negative black swan situations. A negative black swan business is where surprises are almost always bad. Banking is a classic example. A banker who lends money, in the best case, gets his money back with interest. But in the worst case, a black swan event, he can lose everything. The upside is small and capped. The downside is huge and unpredictable. A positive black swan business is the opposite. Think venture capital, publishing, or scientific research. You make many small bets, most failing. You lose a little repeatedly, but you're waiting for that one positive surprise. The startup that becomes the next Google. The book that becomes a global phenomenon. The downside is small and controlled. The upside is massive and scalable. Taleb's advice is to structure your life for maximum exposure to positive black swans. This means embracing stochastic tinkering, a fancy term for trial and error, trying many things, experimenting, staying open to accidents and serendipity. He tells the story of Apelles, the ancient Greek painter, trying to paint foam on a horse's mouth. He tried repeatedly, without success. In frustration, he threw his sponge at the canvas. Where it hit, it created the perfect, accidental image of foam. This is serendipity's power. The greatest discoveries and most important inventions were often accidents, found by people searching for something else, but prepared to recognize opportunity when it stumbled across their path. Louis Pasteur famously said, "Chance favors the prepared mind." Taleb's version, expose yourself to as much chance as possible. Attend parties, talk to strangers, read books about subjects you know nothing about. Collect as many free lottery tickets with open-ended payoffs as you can. You don't need to know your destination to arrive there. In fact, rigid, narrow plans can blind you to opportunities just off the beaten path. This brings us to the final, perhaps most profound lesson of the Black Swan. The goal isn't prediction, it's robustness. We can't stop black swans from happening. The world will always be wild, unpredictable, full of surprises. The goal is building systems, and building a life that doesn't depend on predicting the future. A robust system can withstand shocks, survive the unexpected. A fragile system looks stable and efficient, but shatters at the first real trouble. Our modern world, with its interconnected global economy and massive too-big-to-fail institutions, has become dangerously fragile. We've sacrificed robustness for superficial optimization. Taleb warns us to be wary of this manufactured stability. Preventing small forest fires only leads to a massive, uncontrollable one later. Trying to smooth out every little economic bump only sets the stage for a devastating crash. The Black Swan's wisdom is to accept and even embrace small-scale volatility to protect ourselves from catastrophic ruin. So what do we take away from all this? For me, the most powerful and liberating idea in the Black Swan is that it's okay not to know. In a world rewarding the appearance of certainty, celebrating confident experts with precise forecasts, Taleb gives us permission to say, I don't know. He teaches that this admission of ignorance isn't weakness. It's the highest form of wisdom. It's the starting point for building a truly robust and resilient life. This book isn't a manual for predicting the future. It's a manual for acting in a world you don't understand. And its lessons aren't just for traders or economists. They're for anyone wanting to navigate life's uncertainties with more wisdom, courage, and grace. So how can you start applying these ideas today? Here are a few simple, practical actions. First, start building your own anti-library. This idea Taleb borrows from writer Umberto Eco, who had a personal library of 30,000 books. The most valuable books in his library were ones he hadn't read yet. Your anti-library is a physical reminder of everything you don't know. So buy a book on a subject that intimidates you, a topic you know nothing about. Put it on your shelf. Let it symbolize your intellectual humility, testify to your curiosity, and invite continued learning. Second, apply the barbell strategy to one small area of your life. You don't have to overhaul everything overnight. Just pick one thing. Maybe it's your learning. Spend 90% of your time on required studies, the safe path, but dedicate 10% to something wild, something speculative. Start a YouTube channel, learn to code a weird app, write poetry, join an unusual club. Do something with no predictable payoff, but with the small, thrilling possibility of a positive surprise. See what happens. Third, practice what's called via negativa, the path of subtraction. Instead of asking what you can add to improve your life, ask what you can remove to make it more robust. What fragile dependencies can you eliminate? Maybe it's the constant chatter of 24-hour news. Maybe it's needing approval from people whose opinions don't really matter. Maybe it's a financial habit making you vulnerable to a single income source. Robustness often comes through removing, not adding. In the end, Taleb's greatest reminder is metaphysical. He urges us to remember that our very existence is a black swan. The odds of any of us being born on this planet at this moment in time are so infinitesimally small as to be a statistical miracle. We're survivors of an impossible lottery. When you truly grasp this, the small irritations of daily life, the bad meal, cold coffee, missed train, begin fading into irrelevance. You stop sweating the small stuff because you realize just being alive is extraordinary good luck. You are a black swan, and that simple, powerful truth can set you free. That was our journey through The Black Swan by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. We've touched on the major themes today, but I'll be honest, a summary can only guide you to the water's edge. The real experience comes when you dive in yourself. The magic of this book is in how Taleb's mind works. His stories, his irreverence, his deep connection to history and philosophy. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book deserves your time. If anything we've discussed today sparked even a flicker of curiosity, I urge you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning new ideas. It's an experience that can fundamentally change how you see the world and your place in it. A link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to continue exploring the great books that have shaped our world, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know these conversations matter and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep growing together.